Hi, welcome back to Genuine Coder YouTube channel. This is the second chapter in the 6 chapter tutorial series where we develop our Spring Boot server and Android client applications. So in this chapter, we will be exploring the Spring JPA dependency and its functionalities. So we will be creating a database model called employee for storing our employee data, and we will be exploring the Spring CRUD functionalities. So we will set up a table as a database entity model in our Spring Boot application, and it will be automatically converted into a Spring table. Then we will explore the Spring repository and we will see how we can insert new data, how to delete data, as well as how to get all the employees from the database. So without further ado, let's get started. This is where we left off last day, and we have our project set up. It just starts, it doesn't do anything. When we run our application, it just start at port 9000, and we haven't configured anything. So first thing that we are going to do is to create a model. Like, we need to create an employee database model. So this is our model. We will be creating a class called employee, which will be a Spring entity, and it will have an ID field which will be automatically incremented. Like, the first one that we add will get the number 1, then it will go on 2, 3, 4, 5, like that, and it will be the primary key in the SQL table. Then we will have 3 fields: name, location, and the branch. So this is what we are going to do. So in order to do that, first let us go to our package, and com.genuinecoder is the base. Let us see, yeah, let us create a package here inside this package, Spring Server, and let us call it like model. And in the model, let us create a new package called employee. That is because in case we are going to create new models in this project, then we can put it inside the model package. So inside employee, let us create a class called employee. And yeah, I want to add that into Git. So this is going to be our entity object, and in order to denote a class as a entity or database model, there is a special annotation in Spring Boot called entity. We will just add at entity annotation here, so that it will be processed by the Spring JPA, and a SQL table will be created automatically. So here we need 4 fields as we discussed. We need an ID, then we need a name, so we need a private string name, we need string location, we also need a branch. So these are just some fields that we want to have for this employee class, employee model. And here we said that we need to have the ID auto-incremented as well as being the primary key. So we will just add the annotation at ID. And when we do that, it will be considered as a primary key. We will see that in the MySQL like workbench once this is processed. So for now, let us just add the annotation. And we also said that we want to add it, like we want to auto increment it. For that, we can use a field called at generated value. And in the at generated value, there is an option called generation type dot identity. So here we want to give the option called strategy, and we need to specify it as identity. So what identity does is it will auto increment the value, an integer value, 1 by 1, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So if we go into that, if you go into the documentation, say that in the case that the processor provider must assign primary keys for the entity using a database identity column. So internally they will be maintaining a sequencer, like a system for giving these like sequential numbers. We are not going into that much details. Basically, this will create auto-generated integer values, the auto-incremented integer values. Now we just need to add some getter and setters. So I'm using alt insert option in IntelliJ for like automatic getter and setter generation. And let us also add a toString function here. So in order to open this, you can press alt and insert button. Okay, then alt insert toString, and here we need to have these 4 values, and here we can use, yeah, just that is enough. Okay, now our model class is set. Now the next thing that we want to do is to let Spring know that please scan these packages. Like we want to let Spring know that, yeah, we have an employee entity, employee entity class somewhere in our package. So in order to specify where that somewhere is, we need to add an option here at Spring Boot application. Here there is an option called scan base packages, and here we can provide like which packages it should scan for these kind of models. So for now, let us give the entire package, like all of our classes are within com.genuinecoder.spring server. So let us simply give that. So I will just copy this package name, com spring genuine coder spring server, and here as you can see, I will explain that again. Like the model is inside like this package, and actually everything is inside this package. So if we mention this, then the Spring Boot will scan the entire packages within these 3 layers, so that, and it will find the employee data entity class, and then it can process it. So that is required. We also need one more option called that is called enable auto configuration. So we have an option called enable auto configuration. So the auto configuration is required because Spring Boot provides a ton of auto configuration by default. That is also one of the main advantages of Spring Boot, because it provides out of the box support for a lot of things. So if you add this like enable auto configuration, all the configuration that needs to be done for these kind of basic things to happen, like database support, automatic model to schema, database schema creation, etc., we need to enable auto configuration. So simply add this enable auto configuration into the main class. So far so good. We have created the entity model, and we have added the scan base package section, and also this annotation. Now let us run our program. Okay, now the program is running. Let us go ahead and check the MySQL workbench regarding whether our database, whether a schema is created or not. So here inside tables, now you can see that there is an employee table. And if we click on the employee table, actually we need to see the schema. So select rows, and here you can see that there are no data because we haven't added any data, and it has 4 columns like ID, branch, location, and name is there. And if we go into the type field, you can see that it automatically assigned varchar to the string field, to the employee string field, these 3 fields. It applied varchar, and which is for string storage, as you know, then integer for the int field, and all these things are automatically assigned. And here you can see that for the table, it is auto-incremented and primary key. So since we have specified these values, these annotations, the ID field is now a primary key. So far so good. We have created our model, and now we need to learn how to add and remove data, or add and query data into this table. So in order to do that, we need to use something called Spring repositories or data repositories, and we will be adding some DAO classes which are very simple. So let us do that first. So in order to do this, let us create a repository. So we need a Spring repository. So employee repository. So you will understand the advantage of the repository in a moment. So here we need to extend CRUD repository, and we need to specify that it is from employee. Yeah, so CRUD repository is actually an interface provided by the Spring Boot, and it provides a lot of functionalities, basic functionalities for every entity classes. For example, if you want to save a data, save something, then this repository provides automatic functionality for that. Like if you go into the CRUD repository, you can see that there is a save option, like every entity can be saved. We can save multiple entities. We can find an entity by its ID. We can check whether an entity exists. We can get all entities like that. So basically this is like a pre-baked thing that is available in the Spring Boot, so that we don't have to write it like again. So here what we need to do is to specify what is our entity that we are making repository for. So here we are making repository for employee, so we are giving employee there. Then here we are giving the primary key. So here you can see that we need to give the ID field here, like what is the unique primary key for this model. And for our model, it is of integer type. We are not saying like what is the field name, we are just saying that it is of type integer. And it should not be a class, it should be an interface, because CRUD repository is an interface and we don't have to provide implementation for that because it is already implemented. So we just create an interface here, and we need to add an annotation called @repository. So if you look into @repository, indicates that an annotated class is a repository. So this is all that we have to do to get all the functionalities mentioned here in this repository. So this is also like, if you are new to Spring Boot, then this is like a very interesting thing, because if we were not using it, we had to write a lot of queries and codes to support these kind of save, find, delete operations. But here everything is available out of the box. So here we have added employee repository, right? Then what we need to do is to create a new DAO class. So this DAO class will be like in charge for doing all the database operations. So let's create a class called employee DAO, and here we will specify it as a service. So we are specifying it as a service because we will be using this class from other places through auto wiring, that you will see a bit later in the same chapter itself. So for now, let us just keep it there. If you have confusion, that will be clarified later in the same video. So here the first thing that we need to do is to get an object of this employee repository. So in Spring Boot, what you can do to get an instance of this object is through dependency injection. So if you just put it something like this, like auto-wired private employee repository, then you will automatically get an object like this. This will be auto injected through dependency injection mechanism. So it won't be null. Like you can't create this like repository equal to new employee repository, right? Because you have to provide code for all of this because they are not implemented. The good thing about dependency injection is that this is already internally implemented by Spring Boot. So you can just simply auto-wire it and use it in our application. We will see that just in a moment. So here, let's say we need a function for saving an employee. So I will write a function called public void save. Then here I will accept a parameter for employee. So here you can see that we have created an employee. So there is save option, and employee is here, and here we will, in order to save an employee, like let's say I created a new employee object and I want to save it, then I can do that like this, repository.save employee. That's it. Like you don't have to write implementation for that save function. It is automatically provided. Then let's say you want to delete an employee, then employee will receive the object repository delete, then we can just give the employee and it will be deleted. Then if you want to get all the employees in the database, like we added 100 employees through the save function, and then we want to get all of them, then then there is a way actually. So there is an easy way. So for now let us use void. So get all employees, and if you look into the repository function, repository dot find all, you can see that it returns an iterable. It returns an iterable, and it will return all the instance of the type, like it will return all the employees. So basically this is the functionality that we can use to get all the employees from the database. But the problem right there is like it is an iterable interface. So if you want actually a list rather than iterable, because list is easier to manipulate than an iterable, because iterator goes one by one sequential manner. There is a way you can use Apache Guava library. There are multiple ways, like you can write your own code to convert it into a list. I think first we should try that. So the thing is like repository dot find all streamable. I remember to, okay, yeah, so you can use this like streamable of, then for each employee, then here you can create a list here, list employee is equals new array list. Like we need to convert this iterable into a list. So employees dot add employee, then return employees. So that also return a list of all the employees. There is also a library called Google Guava, and the Guava has support for like these basic functionalities, like converting an iterable into a list. So I will just mention that here, Guava list iterable to list. So if you search for that in this Bildung article, yeah, here you will see like a multiple option, and let us go for Guava. And using Guava library, if you add that into your dependency, there is an option, easy option like this, list dot new array list, give iterable, and you can convert iterable into list. So here also the code is simple, so let us just use it. So yeah, we have implemented the DAO, data access object. DAO means data access object, because all the data will be accessed through this class and its object. Now we need to try this, right? Like we have created a DAO layer. I mean, this is kind of like magic. We didn't write any code, we just added some function and we are expecting it to work. So we need to verify it. So in order to verify that, let us write a test program. So the good thing about Spring Initializer, like if you have watched the chapter 1, is that they also provide a sample class for running tests. So we don't have to write it again. So here we will do some testing code. For now I will show you like the database status. Like if we go into employee and select everything, you can see that it is currently empty. So we will write a function to add a new employee into the table. So add employee test. Let us write a test here. And in order to add a new employee, we need an object of the employee DAO, right? So in order to get an object of the employee DAO in the test, you need to do an auto wiring, like a dependency injection, because we have specified it as a service. So employee DAO, like this, it will work. So it is working because we have specified it as a Spring service. If we didn't mention that at service, then it won't be auto-wirable or dependency injectable into this class. So here what we are going to do is create a new employee object, employee equal new employee. Then we need to give some names. So employee dot set. We are not giving ID because ID will be given by the Spring JPA Hibernate automatically, and it will be automatically incremented. We need to test that, so we are not giving it right now. First let us give name, and let us give Rachel. Then let us give employee.set branch. What branch should we put in? Let us put her in IT. Then employee.set location. Then location, let's say building 5. building 5. Okay, now we have the employee object, and if we want to save it, employee dao dot save employee. That's it. Now what should happen is, like, when we do this, a row should be created in the MySQL database with these three fields, and an ID should be generated automatically. So let us try this. Let us run the program, run the test program. It is instantiating the test. Let us wait for the test to complete, and it looks like everything went well. Build successful, and task executed. So let us go into the MySQL workbench, execute this query again, and you can see that Rachel location 5 IT of ID 1 is now added into the table. In the SQL it is added. Let's just add one more customer, shall we? So let us change this to maybe Bruce Wayne. Let's put him in security, then building X. Then let us add another user. Let us run the test again, and this time Bruce Wayne should be added with the ID 2. Okay, let us come back to the MySQL workbench, and you can see that Bruce Wayne is added here. Okay, now that is very interesting, right? Now let us do one thing. Let us so we have tested the like add employee test. Now let us just add one more test here. Void get all employees. So we have added a function in the employee DAO class to get all employees as a list, right? We need to test it. So list employees equals get all employees. Then we just want to print it. So I will just use sout employees, and we add a test annotation here. Right now we don't want Bruce Wayne to be added again while I am running this class, so I am just commenting this at test annotation, so it won't be executed. Only this function will be executed. So basically we should get 2 employees, Bruce Wayne and Rachel, in the sout. So let us try this. And here it is. Like, you can see that employee ID 1 Rachel, building 5 is there, Bruce Wayne employee 2 is there. Yes, so it is available. So the get all function is also working. Then the last function that we need to test is the deletion, right? So let us do one thing. Let us get all the employees and delete all of them from the database. So I will change this get all and get all employees and delete them, right? So here we are getting all the employees, then employees for each employee, then we will add like delete employee. Okay, and here we will call another function. No, we actually don't want another function, like employee dao dot delete. So when we call this delete, it will be we will be calling the CRUD repository delete function, which is automatically implemented by Spring and Hibernate. So employee dao dot delete will be called. So basically when we run this test program, all employees should be deleted, because we are fetching everyone and then deleting everyone. So let us check the database before we run the test code. So currently there are two there are 2 employees, and let us run the program. Okay, everything is completed. Now let us take the database, run it again, and you can see that all of them are gone. So the CRUD repository and the DAO layer is working very well. Like we have tested save, we have tested delete, we have also learned how to get all the employees, all the objects from the database. And so it is time to wrap up our chapter. It is getting too long. So in the end, what I want to say is, like, you should try out all the other interesting functions available here. For example, if I want to delete an employee by ID, then I can do it like this: employee ID, then delete, and here I can actually give employee ID delete by ID. Do you know why? Because we mentioned in the repository that there is a primary key with integer class, integer data type for the employee. So I should be able to do that. So delete by ID is possible, and I can delete multiple employees using a list of IDs. I can delete everyone using delete all function. There is a count function that returns how many employees are there in the database. So all these functionalities are available right away when you use the repository, like a Spring repository. So that's it, guys. That's about the employee database setup. In the next video, we'll be talking about setting up of the controller so that we can send get and post requests to the server to save data and get data. So I'll see you on the next one. Bye.